Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Dr. Ray, and today, thanks to our sponsor, Waggle, we're going to be talking about my 5 tips to help you keep your pet safe and beat the heat this summer. So as temperatures rise, the safety factor goes up as well. It is very easy for us. We live the life of luxury as the human species in the air conditioning most of the time. And so sometimes it's easy to forget how hot it really gets outside. Now, there are some very common mistakes and safety concerns we're going to be going over today, but we're also going to talk about some things maybe you didn't think about. So of course, everybody knows heat kills when it comes to cars and pets in the cars and even children and people in the car. So cars are a hot box. They get extremely hot, hotter than you can even think, when the windows are closed and the sun is beating down. Those temperatures can escalate very quickly. And so even if you have a car where you crack the windows, it's a significant safety concern when you have a pet left in there unattended. And so one of the easiest ways to alleviate that is don't leave your pet in the car. If you have to leave your pet in the car, leave the car, the air conditioner running. I love to see now the new smart cars and the Teslas and the electric vehicles where they have the pet safety mode, and it even says there on the screen, don't worry, we're climate controlled. That's amazing. It brings light to the serious concern that we see every year with pets that have been left in the car, and people have not realized how extremely hot it's getting. Even if it's not very hot outside, the temperature inside the car can well exceed the outside ambient temperatures. So best to avoid that. Now, what if you're camping or you're in a recreational vehicle? That's where our sponsor Waggle comes in handy. They have their pet temperature monitor that you can Wi-Fi and have alerts as to temperatures in your vehicle, in your RV, and so you can always be sure that the temperature is staying safe, and that's an excellent tool that you guys can check out on their website, mywaggle.com. Now, what about other times of recreation? What about walking? What about jogging? What about outdoor activities? Yes, it can be very hot, and so it's always best to limit those activities in the cool times of the day, so early in the morning or late in the evening when the sun isn't extremely hot. But what can happen is the pavement, the areas where your pet is walking, where their paws are coming in contact with the surface, can be very hot even if it's not hot outside anymore. Pool decks are a very common area where we see pets unexpectedly sustaining burns or injuries to their paw pads. Obviously, sidewalks and jogging paths if they are not in the shade. Even pebble, gravel walkways or areas around the house where maybe it's just a border and the pet traverses that area, those can get extremely hot and cause burns. And so again, early morning jogging, try to keep your pet on the grass away from the hot pavement. Pool decks, you may need to screen those areas in or somehow figure a way with a gate to prevent your pet from going on the pool deck. And that can be an easy way to prevent burns to the paw pads. A lot of times if your pet has sustained burn to the paw pad, it may not show immediately. And so that tissue can be injured and hurt without being visually apparent on the surface. And so if your pet is limping or of course has blisters on their paws, that would be definitely an indication to see your vet and seek some treatment for that. Summer can be an extremely trying time for our elderly patients. And so it takes pets a very high amount of energy to dissipate heat. They do not sweat like we do as humans, and so they pant. That panting can exert a lot of energy. And so with our elderly patients that already are having some struggles, maybe with energy levels and ability to thermoregulate, time outside has to be very limited and very supervised. Again, early morning, late evenings, but it's also important that we don't leave our elderly pets outside unattended for a long period of time. A lot of them have mobility impairment, and so again, that's going to require some extra energy. That, on top of having to expend extra energy to expel heat, can be an easy way for your pet to get into trouble with heat exhaustion. And so that's true for all pets, but specifically for our elderly pets, we need to pay specific attention in the summer months when it's hot, that we aren't leaving them outside unsupervised. Perhaps if they have an area that they frequent, we can make sure that that area is shaded, and we can also install some fans or misters or something like that if you do have an outside pet maybe that does spend the majority of their time outside and have to be unsupervised. Those can be ways to ensure that the temperature stays cool and that we don't run any issues with heat exhaustion. Of course, our breeds, our brachycephalic breeds, our little smush-faced breeds, our Frenchies, English Bulldogs, Pugs, anything like that, they're also going to have similar issues because, again, they have to expend a lot of energy to pant. They already have restricted airways, and so those are other breeds that should probably never be left outside unsupervised, always on a leash and outside for very short amounts of time, and probably will spend most of their summer in the air conditioning. Speaking of inside, even inside can be unreliable. And so if you live in an area where maybe your air conditioning system is having a hard time keeping up, it's extremely hot outside and you know your air conditioner struggles, that can be an issue as well. I have unfortunately had situations where the power has gone out, be it from a storm, be it from whatever the reason, and the air conditioning goes off and the pets have suffered heat-related injuries in the home. So again, a temperature monitor like the Waggle temperature monitor is a good solution for that, but also making sure you set up alerts from your power company so that you know when the power has gone out so that we can avoid any of those tricky situations. Lastly, how many of us like to take our pets on vacation with us? We love to take them on the boat with us. We love to take them to the beach, but it is very important that we understand that heat is definitely a factor for them, just like it is for us in those situations. And so if you have a pet that maybe doesn't particularly like those situations, it may not be a bad idea to leave them home. If you are taking them to the beach or on a boat, make sure there is consistent shade for them. So again, they cannot sweat, so they do have a harder time dissipating heat. Sunburn is actually a real thing, especially on our lighter coated dogs and cats, especially around the bridge of the nose and the tips of the ear. We can get skin cancers there. Sunscreen is kind of an iffy thing. You can use some natural zinc sunscreen on those areas. Be careful with the chemical ones to try to avoid sunburn. You can also put a small little cover on them. A jacket, life jacket would be another option, or a little t-shirt just to cover the hairless areas like the stomach if they like to sunbathe. But recreational time can be a time where we can run into some trouble with heat and heat exhaustion. So again, beaching, boating, anything like that, definitely be careful with your brachycephalic breeds, or breeds that you know are sensitive if your pet is sensitive to the heat. Ensure there's shade and plenty of water so that they can stay cool, or leave them at home if that might be a better option. So what does heat stroke or heat exhaustion look like in our pets? It's going to look like excessive panting where they cannot cool themselves down, almost like in a panic attack. They may actually get to where they're laying down on their side and they cannot be aroused. You may see bloody diarrhea. You may see vomiting, foaming at the mouth. And of course, temperature, make sure that you are checking a rectal temperature, and it's usually rectal temperatures that are greater than 103. Now, some dogs are acclimated to the heat, and you may take their temperature and it can range to 103, but definitely when you get into the 104, 105, 106s and you have the concurrent symptoms of the restlessness, the panting, difficulty catching breath, foaming at the mouth, those type of things, that may be an indication that your pet is struggling with heat exhaustion or even heat stroke. So what do you do in those situations? I know the first thing is we need to cool them down, but there is an important factor that you need to consider when doing that. We don't want to take a really high body temperature and then drop it drastically. So you don't want to plunge them in an ice bath or anything like that, but you do want to kind of douse them, if possible, with some lukewarm or room temperature water, and get them cooled down that way. Do avoid trying to put things in their mouth. So again, ice water or cool water, when they're in a panic and they're panting, they're having trouble catching their breath, putting anything in their mouth is not indicated and can be a choking hazard, so avoid that. As you're cooling them down, you want to be on the phone with your veterinarian or local emergency clinic so that you can be making that process to get there so that they can do other life-saving measures like administering IV fluids and things like that. If you have a fan handy, you can, after applying the water, go ahead and run a fan on them and try to keep them cool that way. If you're in the car, you can put the air conditioner down low, or you can actually actively fan them as you are progressing your way to the emergency clinic. Most heat strokes are treatable, and so we can get them through that, but time is definitely a factor, and so don't delay. do those immediate tasks of cooling, applying water, and applying fan, and then make your way to the nearest facility that can treat heat stroke. And so I hope that this was a helpful video for you. Thank you, Waggle, for sponsoring it and providing such awesome safety tools for our pets. You can definitely check them out at mywaggle.com. And I hope you guys will hang out with me again for some more safety tips in the future.